Ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite Zionist prince coming to you live from the heart of burning Tehran, Iran. Our Queen of Persia, our Persian Queen Elica Laban, is chiming in about the Islamic regime of Iran. Let's take a look at what she says.
Iran is very far away from Israel, right? So their objective and their desire to wipe Israel off the map, which is one of their objectives, seems to a lot of people kind of difficult to understand. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So basically, Iran, there's two types of Islam. There's Shia Islam and Sunni Islam. The regime in Iran subscribes to 12 Shia Islam. So the reason it's called 12 Shia Islam is because they believe that the descendants of the original prophet Muhammad is not the correct lineage of the prophets. It's of his son-in-law and cousin. So the 12th Imam, which was Prophet Mahdi, so there's this theory called Mahdiism. This Prophet Mahdi was said to have gone into occultation, so he went into hiding around 937 CE. So he's gone into hiding, he's gone into occulation, and the theory is that the final prophet emerges once there is once justice and equality has been achieved in the world. And the thing that achieves this justice is that the last drop of blood of Israel falls. So the end of Israel brings back the final prophet.
Oh,
yeah.
I've never heard this. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's a religious thing. It's a prophecy thing.
Yeah.
So they need to destroy Israel.
They need to destroy Israel, correct. So that's why,
for the prophecy to be fulfilled.
Exactly. So that's now how you get into the proxies of the regime, right? So you have the regime almost immediately after the regime comes into power so it comes into power in 1979. Within the next 2 years, between that and 1981, they create Hezbollah. So Hezbollah is essentially a second IRGC, which was created for the purpose of destroying Israel from the closest possible border. Because as you said, Iran's not close enough to Israel to be able to accomplish that. So they were like, okay, let's take Lebanon. Let's put an army of the IRGC in Lebanon, which is
what
the
is the
border of
IRGC? Sorry.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guardian Corps.
Okay.
So this is, okay, so the system in Iran is like this. You have a regular government, which is, for all intents and purposes, just symbolic because it's under so you have the supreme leader. The system is called Velayat Faqih. You have the supreme leader, and underneath the supreme leader, you have the IRGC, which protects the supreme leader. And then you have the regular government, which is parliament, judiciary, and executive, the president. But all of these are under the rule of the supreme leader. So the IRGC essentially protects this system of Velayat Faqih, the supreme leader system. So the second IRGC is created in Lebanon, which is Hezbollah. So after the revolution is successful, Assad comes to Iran to congratulate Khomeini and says, what do you need? And Khomeini says, we need a passage to Lebanon to create this second army to destroy Israel. So they go through Syria, and they come down in northern Lebanon. At the same time, this is like around the same time that, remember, Israel's now in southern Lebanon. And this is why the Western world often says that Hezbollah was created in response to Israel's occupation. Well, that's completely false. First of all, Israel was occupying the south of Lebanon at the time to remove the PLO that were throwing rockets into Israel. And in fact, the Lebanese in the south were actually allying with Israel to help take out the PLO, the SLA. Hezbollah's coming down in the north, and it's basically killing everybody who's not submitting to their rule. Even Shiites, even Shiite Muslims, Sunnis, Christians, basically everyone. They start engaging in a series of terrorist attacks, bombing the American embassy in Beirut, kidnapping Americans, killing them. Then it goes into like the kind of Iran-Contra affair, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Anyway, the whole point is that this regime creates its proxies in order to start satisfying its goal, which is the destruction of Israel. And that's how it ends up also funding and providing training and assistance to Hamas and the Houthis, basically one in furtherance of the same goal.
So I'm guessing that they don't really particularly care, the Iranian regime, which is funding all these proxies, about civilian casualties.
It's not just that they don't care, it's that they need civilian casualties. It's part of the propaganda machine. So you can't turn Israel into a pariah state, right, which is the goal, that everyone thinks this is the most evil state in the world, unless Israel its hand is forced into striking areas where they've put, munitions in schools and in hospitals and places like that, right? So that it's actually part of their strategy to maximize civilian casualties. And in fact, this was something that they read in Sinwar's, a leaked report of something that Sinwar had even admitted himself, that they need as many civilian casualties as possible. Because when they have civilian casualties, then the rest of the world is like, Israel's evil, we need a ceasefire, we need to end all of these things, and then Hamas lives to see another day.
The thing that I find really interesting about all of this is that Biden gave Iran a lot of money. Now, I don't understand why that is. Could you explain the amount of money that he gave?
Yeah.
And there must have been a rationale behind it. So what was the rationale?
So in August of 2023, about 2 months before the October 7th, Biden ends up giving $6 to $7 billion to the regime as part of a prisoner exchange deal, where you get a couple of Iranians from American prison and a couple of Americans from Iranian prisons. Now, we've done these prisoner exchanges in the past without any transfer of money. So under the prior government, under Trump, they got back 2 American prisoners, Shi Wei-Wang and Michael White, with no exchange of money. So this was very curious. We were like, why are you giving them $7 billion? Mind you, they also didn't retrieve one American national, Jamshid Sharmad, who, I don't know if you heard about this, they executed him last week. This is a man that the regime had kidnapped. He was a dissident to the regime, like the rest of us. They tried to assassinate him in California in 2009, and when they failed, they kidnapped him from Dubai, took him to Iran. Biden's administration didn't try to get him back, and then they ended up executing him last week after Israel struck the regime's military bases. So first of all, we're like, why are you giving them money? Second of all, why aren't you bringing them all back? So then what we end up finding out is that you have this lead negotiator in Qatar come out and basically say, these are like laying the ground for getting back into the second JCPOA, which is to get back into another nuclear deal with the regime, which was what Obama did, if you recall, gave $150 billion to the regime to get into the JCPOA, the nuclear deal.
And so what does that mean, to get into the nuclear deal? Because there will be people who go, look, you've got 2 choices with these regimes. You either isolate them and then they go into the arms of Russia, China, whatever else, or you try and work with them and hopefully bring them into the fold, and then that way you can have soft power over. You're smiling. Yeah, you think it's clearly bollocks.
It's 45 years of a failed strategy of appeasement. And they tried the same thing with the Nazi regime, and they appeased for so long that they ended up having to kill 50 million people to take them out. You're just delaying the inevitable. So that's exactly what Obama thought. He was like, oh, maybe if we just give them $150 billion, they'll stop committing terrorism and suddenly start liking us. And it's like, what part of terrorist regime do you not understand? They want you gone. They want you dead. And they're trying to strategize every way they can to pull one over on you. So that's exactly what happened. They got into this nuclear deal, which didn't do anything, mind you, because the provisions of the nuclear deal expired after 10 years anyway. So they could then enrich to their heart's content, and they had $150 billion. And at that time, there was actually another revolution in Iran, the Green Movement, and the regime was on its last legs. And they ended up empowering the regime once again, and Obama comes out a few years later and he's like, oh, you know what? I made a huge mistake. I should have stood with the people of Iran to help them take out the regime. But that was what they believed at the time. They thought diplomacy would...
Yeah, they thought diplomacy would sort this out. And you said something which made me think that, do you think the war with Iran is inevitable between Israel and Iran at this moment?
Between Israel and Iran,
Well, it's kind of already happening, isn't it?
Yeah, there kind of is a war already. Yeah.
But I mean,
more. Yeah, I think more. I think more's coming. Yeah.
And do you think it's inevitable, really?
Yeah, I do think it's inevitable because you have. It's at the point now where everyone is hitting back from the last hit, and I mean, it's going to require one party saying, you know, I'm completely just abdicating this. I'm not going to continue with this, and I don't see why either one of them would do that. So, yeah, and the regime has already come out and said that it's going to strike back on Israel after the previous attacks.
It's a messed up situation, but Elica always has so much insight on this, considering she's from there and her whole family's from there. You know, kicking the can down the road is the biggest. Would it be the biggest potential failure of the Trump administration, not taking this head on? And I know how much you guys in America now are like, all of a sudden anti-war, all of a sudden we don't want to be a part of war, we don't want to fight, it's not our war, it's not our war. Who the hell caused the collapse of the Shah in Iran? I'm an American, I'm a proud American, but I can also say America has a responsibility in this fight. When they're sitting there aiming to build nuclear weapons, and they have credible information that they are actually enriching uranium to weapons grade level, and you sit there and they're telling you, we want to destroy America, we want to nuke America, and you say, it's not my war, I don't want to be involved, it's not my war, I'm not interested, it's Israel's war, it's the Jews' war. You sound like a fucking idiot. You really do sound like a fucking idiot. I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you a long time. Goodbye, Clyde.
If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat, or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.